Hi everyone, welcome to yet another episode of iDenti-Tea with Praveena. Today's guest, I am so excited to introduce you to. You all probably know her already, and I'm super excited because she's the first female guest on this season and just generally with iDenti-Tea with Praveena. So where do I even begin? She's someone that I've been following, and I've been a silent follower and fan of hers for the last few years. An incredible dancer, a very versatile dancer who's currently studying at university, but her work has touched the souls and creative minds of many people, not just in the UK, not just in Europe, but around the globe. She's also performed worldwide as well, and today she's here with us to share her ideas, views, and insights into the world of dance and beyond. So without further ado, let me introduce you guys to Hashna Siva.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so blessed to be here.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing good. And you?
I'm good, thank you. I think this is like a long time coming. I really wanted to sit down and have a chat with you because like I said in that intro, I have been following your work. I've been a fan of your work, and most importantly, I've been a fan of how bold you are about your viewpoints about dance. And it takes a lot of courage to be that bold person who puts their viewpoints out about something that's really, a profession for so many people.
Yeah.
So thank you. And before we kind of, delve into
Yes.
what your belief system is and everything, because I know we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your dance journey, where it started for you.
So, of course, for me, it started with my mum because she taught me Bharatanatyam since I was 3 and I'm now 20. So that's 17 whole years. So I started with Bharatanatyam, and then it was I loved the style, but it was really restricted. So I kind of delved into contemporary when I was in school. I did some ballet when I was younger, but it just didn't work with me. It was too far, travel just didn't work. And contemporary was quite a free style for me, so I was able to explore freedom through movement when I was doing contemporary, because in Bharatanatyam it's very restricted. You have to sit a certain way, you have to express yourself a certain way. There's only certain themes you can express through it. Some themes are taboo, so you can't really do much. So for me, Bharatanatyam and contemporary were like on the two different ends for me. And whilst I was in school studying A-levels, I did A-level dance. I also had some friends that did Afro and dancehall. So that's how I got to explore those two styles, which is very different culturally to Bharatanatyam. And again, it's quite taboo, some of the moves. But honestly, it's just good fun. It's a good way to release some energy. And then when I went to uni, I explored a few more. I started hip-hop. That came through K-pop, to be honest. K-pop kind of introduced me through hip-hop. And then I did some commercial, and finally I did heels, which is a very unique style. And the feminine energy you get to feel through that is just above and beyond. So I think every woman on earth should defo dance in some heels, whether it's at dinner or in your house. You defo should try it.
Amazing.
But yeah, that's just how it's been.
Yeah. And you spoke about taboo.
Yes.
What does that mean? When you say taboo, what do you mean by that?
Just ideas that aren't really spoken about or just kept under the covers in our community, because it is either seen as too sexual or just not right for a woman to do. So I feel like that's just stuff that I wanted to do, because it's not really about that. Certain moves in Afro and dancehall it's not for the sexual purposes, it's also their culture. So them moving certain parts of their body doesn't mean, oh, they need this, they need that. It's just them releasing energy. There is a saying where women store certain energy, stress or something in their hips. I might be wrong, but shaking that part of your body helps to relieve it. So it's really good for you. So if you try it, then you get to release all of that. Exactly. You get to release all of that negative energy, all that stress, all that unwanted stuff in your body. So yeah.
Nice. Did you, when you ventured into Afro, for example, and you started exploring movement and different aspects of your body through dance more, did you face any backlash from our community because of that?
I would say it is, you can kind of tell when some people are not supportive. People would say things about what a girl should do and what a girl shouldn't do. To me, I'm someone that doesn't really care. So whatever I hear, it's like this, and it comes out. But I did my best to put out the styles. So I did last year.
Yeah.
I put out all the styles that I'm familiar with. I'm not perfect at them all, but whatever I was able to put out, I did, just so I could introduce it to other females or other girls in the society that might want to try it or are probably feeling scared because of these views. But it was quite, I wouldn't say it was too difficult. It was a bit difficult in the beginning because I was just a young chick. When I was just hatched. I was brand new to the dance scene. So it was something I didn't expect because I never really saw that coming, especially since I learnt those styles from an environment where I was safe to do it. So when I brought it into the Tamil dance scene, it was a bit like, oh, so some people like it, some people don't. But really and truly, as long as the performer, as long as the dancer loves to do what they want to do, just let them do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Tamil dance scene is something that we've, even just before this, we were talking a lot about.
Yeah.
And you were part of it, you know, for the first few years when you entered the university scene. And now you have stepped out of it. And your ventures into the world of dance are crazy, amazing, and it's good to see.
Thank you.
But how did you find that environment? Kind of, you've got a level of training at one point, and then you come into a scene which is very much, you know, it's got its own characteristics, and then you may take something out of it, and then you move out. But that experience in that scene, how was that for you?
I would say I was actively involved in one point. Right now, I'm just kind of there, not really doing much. Not for them, not specifically for them. So I did COG during my first year. I did during my second year. This year, I didn't really do any of the events because I know that my audience are people who I want to kind of appreciate the movement that I'm putting out, not just the visuals, you know. So when I pick and choose events that I'm doing, I always make sure that I am respected as a choreographer or a performer, that my work is too, my dancers are, and either I'm paid for the time and energy I'm putting in, or I'm given a safe space or environment to work with. So that's kind of things I consider, which is, I feel like because I've kind of put out my works, I feel like it's easy for me to do that, but I do understand that some students probably don't really have the choice of kind of picking and choosing what event they want to do because they just really want the opportunity. So I completely understand. But for me, it's just kind of like I have the rights to kind of pick what I want to do, what I don't want to do. So yeah.
And it's a very freeing space to be in, to
Yeah, it's
have
very
that
free.
freedom to pick and choose what you want to do,
Yeah.
and like pick and choose what you want to do and how you want to present that art form. So that's obviously an incredible space to be in as well. How did you find, Mega Male is something that we both took part in. I think when you initially took part in Mega Male, I was also there on that same stage. So we obviously not to dance together, but we
were on the same
we
stage.
were on the same stage. So
Yes.
I'll always take pride in that. But how did you find that transition from being a dancer into a choreographer the year after?
So for me, that was my first time choreographing for quite a few styles. So it was a bit scary, but I was introduced to choreography by my mum. So mum was able to let me kind of lead certain pieces for her dancers, but through Bharatanatyam, which was quite, you have your rules, you can follow whatever you want to do. But for it was quite free. So I was able to do whatever I want to do. Then I realised I just wanted to put out me on stage, just my journey of dance. So I kind of decided to put out dance in its raw forms because I feel like that is something that's quite lacking these days in certain circles and certain bubbles. So I just wanted to put out the raw forms, show people what it looks like respectfully, and just kind of, hopefully encourage people to take classes, to kind of really delve into the styles, know where it's come from, know the cultures behind it, learn from the bottom upwards, because that's something I feel like dancers these days who kind of rely on TikTok and social media kind of just miss out on. So yeah, that's really what I did during last year.
Sure. And what I see from the quality of the work that you produce and the way you present yourself and your art form is that you're very disciplined.
Yes.
And we were talking about the importance of discipline in arts. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like there are some individuals, or maybe a larger proportion, who lack that discipline. Because I come from a a space where I was Bharatanatyam trained, and then I went into the Bhangra scene. Both are very highly disciplined areas and dance styles, and the training style is so different to what I'm seeing now.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that trained me to be, if people are saying that I'm a good dancer now, that's because of that.
Yeah.
I had that discipline, and I'm trying to carry that through to every aspect of my life. And I definitely see that in your line of work as well. Do you find discipline lacking in some areas, or do you feel maybe not? Maybe there's some other issue that may be going on?
I feel like discipline is something you kind of always need in every kind of aspect of life, especially in dance, because some of them are cultural. We need to kind of show respect to where it's come from. Some of them are fine arts, so we need to make sure we're passing it on to the future in as much detail and as much clarity as possible. So discipline is kind of needed in that, especially since my mum was she is a Bharatanatyam teacher. She was really disciplined. She was really strict with me when I was growing up. So if one of my other bits isn't right, she will make me do it, or her students do it to the point where it's clean. She won't move on. And I feel like some people see that as a hindrance, but it's really not. They're just making sure that they're teaching you well. So that kind of discipline applies to certain styles. One style that I don't really see that discipline that I don't see the discipline in is kudde. So in kudde, it's just kind of like a release of energy, right? And like you were saying earlier, like when you think of kudde, you're thinking of the one from South India where it's raw. I don't really see that anymore. I feel like dancers kind of do it for the visual aspects of it now, for the audience's view, not for themselves. When I dance, it's for me. Like, I'm just making sure I'm having the time of my life. But whether I'm on stage, in front of the camera, in my dance room, in my room, on my bed, even when I'm making choreo, you know? So I feel like that's something that's lacking. The discipline, the respect for cultures. And I just really wish I could see people kind of really think about what they're learning and think about what they're putting out and make sure they're doing it. What's the word?
With respect.
Yeah, with respect. Yeah.
And truthful and with honesty.
With honesty, yeah, that's the word I'm missing. Because some people think that because they have made it so far on social media, they can just jump into a certain style and just be like, oh, I can teach Afro. Like, just because you've made it as a kutte dancer on social media doesn't mean you can just jump into Afro and say you can teach Afro choreo. Because where are you learning it from? You're learning it from TikTok moves or not even from classes. We're in London. We've got all these studios. We've got all these amazing people like the Home Bros, and there's a few others that I can recommend. But they teach regularly, and you can always make time for it. And not just Afro, you've got hip hop, you've got commercial, you've got heels, everything. So when we're in a city where we've got all of this accessible to us, when I see people just kind of stick to their comfort zone, stick to their bubbles, learning off friends, learning things that may not be right, or spreading things that may not be right, it is a little bit upsetting. And to certain dancers, it can be disrespectful because we spend hours and hours training, whether it's solo, which is quite hard, or even in a classroom where we spend money, spend time. Training isn't a really nice environment if you're doing it under disciplined conditions because it's going tough on yourself.
Definitely.
As you should know, as you would know.
We were talking about this when, like, during Bharatanatyam training, my mum, yes, my teachers were always, my gurus were always very strict and hard on me. But then my mum would also add to that as well. And I cannot complain about it now. At the time, I was a girl, like a young kid.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously I was complaining. But now I'm so grateful because foundations have to be solid or as near solid as possible for you to then build on that. And same with Bhangra training. When I started Bhangra training, my captains were my captains. And they've trained me for, 4 to 5 years, and I had to go to regular classes, regular daily training, and they would comment on every single move of mine to the second. Literally, if my arm was like, too high or too low, my leg lift was too high or too low. And I had to then, it forced me to look at my moves in that much more detail. And that's so important if you want to be better at whatever style you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no limit to how much you can learn. You're never going to be there. There's always so much to learn. So as long as you've got that mindset of, I can do more, I can learn more, there's more to learn, you're never going to hit the rock bottom where you're just kind of stuck. Because that's what I'm seeing with a few maybe a few, maybe a lot, maybe it's just like a general thing. But loads of dancers kind of are stuck at one point where I'm just seeing the same thing over and over again, recycled and reused. So I feel like that people just need this mentality of, you know what, let me just go take a class. It may be because they don't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable. I feel like it's just something you're just going to have to break out of. And there's people like Adish and other dance schools that are offering the same training, just with the same within the same culture. And everything's affordable as well. So as long as they just kind of take that mental push to go take a class and kind of learn the actual roots from the actual roots, then it's amazing.
And I feel that as a spectator, seeing so many workshops being held within our community, there are loads of things that are going on where people go to a workshop to just learn a routine, to just post it again. I'm not a fan of that.
Me neither.
I'm like, no, you're going to a workshop to learn. It doesn't have to be all for the gram.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be all for the TikTok. What are we doing to prove that? You know, what are we proving by doing that? Why can't we just go to a class just to learn, and it's somewhat, you know, conditioning as well. We're forced into that mindset as well. But I just wish that we could just learn an art form without the pressure of having to post about it, because then we'd have a lot more quality than we've got now.
Yeah. I feel like loads of people kind of think of everything as content. If they perform somewhere, they just need someone to kind of film them alone so they can post it on their story or post it as a reel. If they go to a class, they want a video at the end. I feel like it's not just in the Tamil community, it's kind of everywhere. So really and truly just comes down to kind of being in the zone, taking in what you can from workshops, but also go to the workshops that you feel like you're going to learn something. Going to your friend's workshop is going to, of course, support them, but if you're not going to learn anything, it's not going to be a push for you and you're not going to learn anything. So make sure you're going to the right places to learn new things, go to places where you want to support, and just have fun as well. Like, just don't always think about the camera and having to film everything. Kind of be in the zone, let it all sink in, taking what you want, taking what you don't, and just.
Yeah. You were talking earlier on about how, you know, you took some time and you know, during the day you'd schedule time for yourself to learn a routine. Can you just tell everyone who's like watching and listening to this about that process? Because I was inspired by it, and I know many people would be and should be.
So because I've come from a really disciplined background, I know to work towards something I need to put in energy and time. So what I did was, during my first year I would take a load of foundation classes. And foundations are like in dance in general, for example in Bharatanatyam, without an adava you can't really learn a chorva, and then you can't make like a piece. You can't do that. So foundations are the building blocks in dance, regardless of the style. So you kind of need those building blocks to be able to do a choreography. So in comparison to a dancer going in with some foundation training to a choreography class, and to a dancer that just goes into a choreography class, there's going to be a difference in technique and quality and things that you're going to see as just, you know, you can just see clear differences. So what I did was, for like a whole week, I would do this occasionally here and there when I've got a long break from uni. I would just go to a studio, I would pick a dance, and it would be a random one. Anything that I just feel like, oh, I want to try this. It looks nice. It looks like it's going to be either it's going to relieve energy or it's just going to keep me restricted within energy, just something, you know. And I would set myself an hour to learn the piece. But of course, because I've got the foundation training in that style, it's not too hard for me to learn the choreo. I don't have to go, oh, the arms go in here, the legs go in there. If I'm seeing a Bart Simpson or a Biz Markie in the hip hop routine, I would be like, okay, so I can do that. Thing is, with foundations, it's not the exact same as classical for certain styles. Like with hip hop, it might just be the groove with the body that's the same, and then you can play around, mess around with the hands and the head and the vibe. So I feel like in that way, I love certain styles more because it's more free. So when I do the hour, I kind of sit there, think how I can play with the choreo, how I want to do it with my body, and then for 15 minutes, I would just drill it again and again and again, and I would think through all the details. One thing I would do is I would go through the choreo in detail with my head, just a tad bit before my body does it, because that kind of makes you kind of go through all the details. I feel like it would help dancers in general, because that prevents a blackout. And then after the 15 minutes, I would just put my phone there. I would do the piece. And to me, it's not about what it looks like, it's about how I feel when I do it. So after I feel like, okay, you know what, that was a good one, I pause, I sit there and watch. Sometimes the ones before could look good, but then I realized that in the moment, it wasn't good enough for me when I felt it. So that's when I know I can push my limits.
Yeah.
So that's my solo training. That's like a week of solo training, and I would do that with different styles. But one thing I would never do is go and learn a style off a video that I have no foundations for, because you're not going to get anywhere.
I love that.
You're putting yourself through stress. You're putting yourself through God knows what. Your brain's going to be out of it. Your body's not, it doesn't feel the vibe. One thing I don't like to attempt is heels floor work, because I just don't think I'm physically strong enough to kind of take it in. I would do it, but it's crazy. Like, that is something I really want to work on. But yeah.
I find that really, really fascinating. And it's definitely something I'm going to be taking away from it, because this is something that, you know, we were trained to do with our classical training and, you know, Bhangra training. That's how it worked for that. But then, you know, down the line, it gets kind of diluted.
Yes.
The way we train gets diluted, and it affects the quality of the work that we produce and how good of a dancer we are. And the way you do this is, it's like homework, you know, school homework.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, the education system has its flaws, but the discipline we are trained and in, like, built in with, if we put that level of discipline and energy into our creative arts that we're truly passionate about, imagine what we can achieve.
Exactly. And I feel like there's just so much more you can do when you keep pushing yourself. If you can't do it yourself, then have someone push you. Have your mum. Just have your mum ask you, have you done this by now? Have you done this by now? Or even a friend or like your mate. So it's always about having the mental capacity to always think that you can do more.
Yeah.
So it always really comes down to that.
Yeah.
But it's always possible. It's never too late. It's never too late for anyone, regardless of your age, regardless of where you are. You can always start dancing.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you talk about dance as energy.
Yes.
And I think this maybe one or two people I've spoken to about dance have that same kind of drive towards it.
Yeah.
Energy, what does that mean to you?
To me, energy is something that I want to express. And through dance, it's of course physically and visually. But sometimes I would when I'm making choreos, for example, it's quite different to when I'm freestyling. So when I tend to freestyle, it would always come through classical foundations, because that's what I'm comfortable doing. It just comes because I've drilled it so much. In terms of other styles, I've got a lot more to go, a long way to go actually. And I feel like there's time for me to kind of be comfortable to kind of freestyle that way. But whenever I look back at my freestyle video, sometimes accidentally I might do like a hip hop move or like an Afro move, and I would look at it. I'm like, oh, if I felt it in the time, then it's fine. But I'm always looking for the perfection in terms of the move I've just done. But when I do classical freestyle, I never do anything that's expressive in terms of abhinayam. I would always stick to nirtam, because with abhinayam, you kind of need to know the song. You have to make sure you're kind of expressing it well. You sometimes in freestyle you won't know the song that you're doing, but you can always catch on the beat. So I kind of stick to doing it that way. But say if I'm doing a choreography, there's a certain energy that's inside you that you kind of want to release. So if I'm doing a heels piece, that's when the inner feminine energy just comes out. And if I'm doing Afro, I'm down to earth, I'm vibing, I'm laughing around, I'm doing everything. Hip hop, I'm cool, no one can mess with me, you know. But when I'm doing Bharatanatyam, depending on the piece that I'm doing, it's like I'm in my bhakti, I'm religious, I'm like really spiritual. So different styles kind of bring out different energies through within. So that's what I believe.
And the way you talk about different styles just shows how much you've really delved into it. And that's really important, especially, and when I did the intro, I called you a versatile dancer, because that's what I see you as, because when you put out any different style of dance, I can see that you've taken it in, not just on a surface level. It comes from your core. It comes from an energy within. And you talk about, you know, styles with, it's like you've really learnt about it. And that's what we need more of.
Yeah.
And people may find that intimidating. Have you ever found that people find that aspect of your dance intimidating, or you as a person intimidating?
I feel like I get it a lot. People say I'm very intimidating, but I think it's because I've got like the resting face. So I'm kind of just like, I'm just really like, I'm quite closed, so I'm only really open. I feel like it's something I've learned over time, but I do get that a lot. But also I think it's because I know what I'm worth, I know what I put out, so I kind of expect the respect, and I give the respect too. So I think that's why people find me intimidating, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It comes with it.
I genuinely think it's because they respect your work.
Yes.
And I think that's important. When you're in a class zone or training zone,
Yes.
if you've got a choreographer in front of you, there has to be that respect. In
Yeah.
those 2-3 hours that you're training with this person, if they are your choreographer, your trainer, there needs to be a respect for that person.
Exactly.
And we were talking about this. We spoke about so much
We
before,
did.
but
the cameras weren't rolling.
No, the cameras weren't rolling, but we were saying, when you're in that training zone,
Yeah.
even if I chill with you outside of this class, in this zone, you are my trainer. I am a student who's trying to absorb as much information.
Yes.
I'm going to give you that respect. In the
Exactly.
same way you're at school and you do that
Yes.
for your teachers, you don't bro zone your teachers.
No, we don't do that.
No, you don't.
Yes.
And that level of respect, even if an age doesn't play a factor in this, no
Yes.
matter how old or young that person is who's training you, they are your teacher. You're there to learn.
Exactly.
Have you ever felt that discrepancy between the kind of different environments or communities, like within the dance scene?
Yes, I have felt that before. I'm going to be very honest. And it doesn't feel nice as a choreographer when it does happen. But you just have to keep it professional. You just kind of have to let it slide. But I always have a word with my dancers if I do realize that. If you're coming to my rehearsals without knowing your dances, if you haven't rehearsed it properly, and if you're missing details that I've already pointed out to you by giving those timestamped notes like you do, like if after we've kind of spoon fed you, and if you can't take your own time to kind of just let it sink in and come to me with all of it cleaned, then of course I'm going to have a word with you and you're going to see the strict version of Hashna. Yeah. But when in a normal rehearsal situation, because I know how scary it is to be in front of someone that kind of seems intimidating, I kind of ease the mood. I say, guys, you're completely fine to be yourselves. You can chit chat in the middle, but as soon as you see me waiting or you can hear my voice, I want it all over and I want it kind of done. But this is something that's taken me a while to kind of bring up, because the first time I've ever worked with loads of people, it was 28 dancers for MM. It was hard to kind of control everyone, especially when some of them are older. Some of them are people that are like people you look up to. Yeah. So it is hard, but I feel like you just have to put that away. You still respect them, but in that moment, if you're the choreographer, you're just going to have to be the boss.
Yeah. And I've noticed this when I shifted from like the Bangla scene, where that's how I was trained. And when I try to bring those nuggets of teaching techniques into my training sessions, I would do the timestamp notes. Like people who've trained with me will know I will give like paper feedback or like PDFs. I love PDFs, so I will give like timestamps from this second. At this second, your arm should be slightly off.
Yes.
Or it was slightly off, or your leg work, your timing, your talam was off, your beat was off, your expressions could have been like different in this sense.
Yes.
And I would do that. And I would do that for myself as well. So in that same document, I would give myself feedback when I've done a run-through video. What gets frustrating is when that feedback isn't listened to and we're back to square one. And this is why dance training can become such a strenuous process for us as choreographers, because I feel that choreographers, we do around 30 to 40% of the work.
Yes.
The rest of it comes from our dancers.
Yes.
And they need to put that work in for then our work to be presented in the way that we visualized it to be.
Exactly.
And it's a work in progress. And I feel like I've become less strict.
Yes.
Obviously, I don't teach as much now. I do my regular classes, but when I was kind of in that training zone a couple of years ago for MM, I was less strict than I was when I initially started in the Tamil dance scene.
Yes.
I've noticed that because I've felt that people took it a bit too personally.
Yeah, I think again, it's like people need to know when you're in like a professional dance situation, not everything is allowed to be taken. I mean, well, you can if you want to, but like it's preferred to not take everything personally, because sometimes there's just feedback that you're given, which can help your growth. If it offends you, then there's something that you need to work on. But I feel like people need to kind of get used to kind of hearing feedback. They're not used to it, so when they're not used to it, then they're just like, they're a bit taken aback, but it is sad that people take it personally. Yeah. But I feel like as a community, we kind of need to move on and take things positively.
Definitely.
As much as we can.
As much as we can, yeah. And it was last year, maybe the year before, because you posted something on Instagram, I think on your story, which
Yes.
I absolutely loved, and I was like, yes. But it was something about like a video that I think you posted with your brother.
Yes.
And you posted it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the amazing video at its core, anyway. And then the singer, the musician, reposted or reshared it.
Yes.
And then people started commenting and
Yes. Oh no.
congratulating. And
Oh
you know,
no.
there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And you actively pointed that out. What was your mindset at that moment when you noticed that shift?
I don't know if it was for my video with Bhavication, right?
Yes.
It was the one where I did the Bharatanatyam to the Afro
Yes.
instrumental.
Yeah,
yes. And the singer had posted it. But I was seeing a lot more interaction on the post that the singer had posted than my original one.
Yeah.
But if you really, I'm not asking you to, but if you really cared, if you wanted to support what I was putting out, you can always drop a comment or like a like on mine. If you're going to at me and tag me and just be like, oh my God, Hashna, well done, congratulations, after the singer has done it. To me, it just seems like because the singer has reposted it, you kind of want to kind of celebrate with me, just want to join in, kind of clap chase.
Yeah,
clap chase is the right word, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, guys.
I mean, it's true.
It's true though.
It happens a lot.
In the nicest way possible to someone as a creator, it just looks like clap chasing. And it does make me kind of shut off my personality from people, which is why, again, the intimidation kind of comes in. Because if I'm closed off, you're not going to know much about me. And when people don't know much, they're going to assume things. And they're going to be like, oh, is she like this? Is she like that? Is she mean? Is she not mean? Is she nice? Is she not nice? So it's just things like that. But as someone that doesn't care,
yeah. And I love that attitude that you don't care and you put your opinions out there very bravely and strongly, because we need that energy and we need those viewpoints to be said louder for the improvement and the betterment of our artistic community.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's maybe kind of being lost a little bit. I think we had it when I started dancing. There was a lot of that. There was, you know, you wouldn't call yourself a dancer until you had your foundations on lock. And now anyone and everyone's a dancer.
Exactly.
And it's great. Like, expressing yourself and dancing is such a good thing, and I would highly, highly recommend it. But then it kind of leads on to my question: what is the difference between someone who dances versus someone who's a dancer versus someone who's a professional dancer? Like, is there a difference?
I think there is.
Yeah,
Do you?
I think there is.
Yeah.
Some people disagree.
Yeah.
I think there is a clear-cut difference.
Yes. I think there is too. Like, for me, if you say a professional dancer, that's someone who knows their basics inside and out. You can chuck a choreo at them. I don't think I'm there yet. You can chuck a choreo at them. They would be able to look at it in 30 seconds and they can just replicate it. I might be able to do that in one style only right now, Bharatanatyam. That's because I've been given the right foundations. I've trained it the right way. I've had the discipline. I practice it very regularly. So if you chuck a choreo at me, I can give it back to you in 30 seconds. But in terms of other styles, I'm not there yet, and I hope to be soon. For the other styles, I would only consider myself as a dancer because I'm choreographing, I'm performing, I'm actively training. But I would not call a TikTok dancer a dancer. They're two very different things. And even someone that only kind of attends rehearsals and goes and performs at shows, I would call them a performer.
Yeah.
I feel like a dancer is someone that really takes in the dancer knowledge, understands it and brings it out in their own way and uses their body to express feelings, thoughts, emotions and ideas. That's what a dancer is to me. So I feel like TikTok dancers, they're there for fun.
Yeah.
Nothing, I don't look down on them, but it's just very different to professional dancers.
Yeah.
Because you can't throw them into a group of dancers who are backup dancers for a musician, because if you give them last minute formations, they're not going to be able to hack it. It's going to throw them off the boat because they're so used to drilling something and then having the camera there and you just do it for the camera. You've got your takes. It's not live.
Yeah.
So that's just, it's very different.
It's the experience as well and the level of training you've had. And not many people are willing to hear that feedback.
Yeah.
I always use this as an example. I have some vocal training, Carnatic vocal training. I'm sure you have as well, and with Vuna. And we've got the training, but would I then, start singing and call myself a singer? No, because I'm not doing the background work for it. And it's disrespectful to someone like my sister, who's still training. And there are many singers out there who are still going to regular weekly classes and training the foundations, going back to basics, it is disrespectful to them. And therefore, it's like you can't call yourself an engineer or a doctor without completing the degree.
Exactly.
Why can't we have that same level of fear, like Baya Bhakti, for the creative arts?
Yeah. Something I want to add here is, especially in the Tamil uni dance scene, Kuttu plays a very big part in terms of, that's like the most prominent style that we kind of see. You've got like different styles. We've got cinematic Kuttu, we've got like street Kuttu, you've got like Afro Kuttu, all sorts that have been coming out. I'm not really quite supportive of that because to me, it doesn't really make sense. I would call it open choreography. If you're going to mix two styles together, there's a term called open, which means it's just a choreography with like a mixture of styles. But Kuttu doesn't have like the Baya Bhakti or like the training or the foundations. So dancers that come from that background assume it's easy to just go into a hip hop class, learn choreography, but it's really not like that. Again, it all comes back down to foundations and training and that whole process. It's like going to school, learning your times tables, but then moving on to doing your double digits. Like it's just, it all comes down to like going from the basics. But I feel like because people kind of get to a place where they've got such a good following on TikTok, they think, oh, I've got like 100K followers. Let me just call myself a dancer, attend a few classes. But you're just missing that whole block.
Yeah, there's
Where's
a
this
chunk that's missing.
Where is all of it?
Yeah, there is a chunk that's missing.
Yeah, but it's never too late. I feel like some people are scared to kind of, they might think it takes ages, but really it depends from person to person. My mum teaches Bharatanatyam, right? So some kids might have really good pickup. They could probably learn all 8 Tadradavas in one day and then move on to like Nadradava. But with some kids, they just probably don't have like the mental capacity to kind of drill it. They might need more time to take it in. So it really depends on yourself, and you have to learn about yourself. Go take these classes, please. Go take the classes.
That's the main message here.
Yes,
Go to classes.
Exactly. Because we're in London as well. There's people that I know in Swiss that are dying to be in these places because you've got like all these studios. You've got Pineapple, you've got the Manor, you've got Base, Manor, and the Playground are new here. They're new. Like they're beautiful studios. They've got colourful lights and everything. It just brings the vibe. No, for me, you know, when you've got like the lighting, it just makes me feel better. It makes me feel better. I feel like I'm on stage. Exactly. So when you've got all these studios and all these dancers teaching you, choreographers, some of them are like known worldwide, and like to even get a spot in their class, it's like. Like once you know you got the spot, you're like, oh my god, I beat the queue. So it's really sad to see people kind of rely on TikTok and videos when you could just learn it in person from like the gurus.
Yeah.
You know, because really and truly, if we see someone from a different culture do Bharatanatyam without the foundations, and you can tell, we're not going to have it.
No,
we're
not.
As like a community, we're not going to have it. So why would we do that with styles like Afro?
Yeah,
you know?
it's what we call cultural appropriation.
Exactly.
That's what happens, right? We have it's like a stereotype.
Exactly.
And we put that into our art styles, and then that becomes, you know, we then put it out there wrongly, and it's disrespectful. And I wish people could look at what they're producing. Am I doing this correctly? Even with Kuttu. If we look historically, Kuttu, even there's arguments about even if whether Kuttu is the right term, because you know, we were talking about folk as an umbrella term for so many of the street dance styles from Tamil Nadu. And that's what it comes down to. There are foundations to it, you know, but we don't have the knowledge at the moment.
Exactly.
And if we work together as a community to build those foundation, you know, the structure and the basics, we're able to then build a good mindset to venture out into other styles in the correct way. I think that's like something that we need to continue building on.
Exactly. I'm the wrong person to come to Kuttu because the only time I did it was for Cog, and that's about it. But like I feel like there's always someone or somebody who can share, and they're always sharing. So as long as you're kind of learning from the right people, listening to the right people, doing your research, we're in this day and age, there's nothing that you can't find. We've got everything on Google. You've got books, like, come on, guys.
There is a lot. It definitely is a lot. And before we kind of wrapped up, I did want to ask you kind of one question about your social media presence. Because social media plays a huge part right now in how we as creatives put our work out,
Yeah.
or use it as a portfolio, however we want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But the way you use social media now has changed. There has been a shift.
Yes.
And there may have been reasons for that. And I wanted to just get your insight into what that shift was, why it changed for you.
So for me in the beginning, I didn't have opportunities to always showcase that I was a dancer. I didn't have opportunities to perform, put out my choreographies. So social media is something I relied on to kind of build my platform. So that's how people knew I could do these certain styles. I could put out hip-hop choreos, I could put out heels, I could put out whatever. But now it's gotten to a point where I don't have to rely on that. So because people know that I'm capable of putting things out. So I feel like I don't have to be consistent. I wish I was, because there's so many things that have been pending that I haven't put out.
Watch the space.
But like, if I remember, but like, I just kind of think, oh, I'll do it later, and then I just kind of forget. And then by the time I remember again, it's like, oh, it's been 2 months. What can I do now? But because it doesn't really play a big part in my dancer life. I take classes here and there. Majority of the time I'm training alone. Sometimes I just have rehearsals, and it's just been like that. Because sometimes when you've got like a really show-packed kind of schedule, it's just rehearsals. You don't have time for training. So I do appreciate that. But I feel like as dancers, you kind of need to kind of figure out the balance to make sure you've got time to train and you've got time to showcase. So that's what I'm doing now.
And it's not just about showcasing.
It's not just about showcasing.
Training is
more
very
important.
It's
training
more
is more
important, yeah.
Because if you're not training, or if you get to a point where you think you're done, it's not always going to be at that level.
Yeah.
If you're not doing the Adamandi, it's not always going to be the Adamandi. It's going to go to shambles.
Yeah.
So that's in all styles. So you need to keep training to keep that level and to keep going higher.
Yeah.
I always feel like me personally can always go higher.
Yeah.
There's always so much to learn.
And we're never done.
We're never done.
Always learning.
Exactly.
And I always say this, like I'm 10 years older than you. It feels like I'm learning so much from you. And one thing that I can get from this conversation is the importance of foundations.
Yes.
And it's been a very, very reflective conversation for me about the importance foundations have played in my dance career.
Yeah.
And how important it is for me if I want to venture out into other dance styles, because how else can I confidently call myself a master of the craft?
Exactly.
We'll never be perfect, but I need to have the backing. I need to have the knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just before we wrap up, I normally do like a final 5.
Oh no!
So it's a very quick thing.
Yes.
I just throw 5 very random words.
Oh no!
You.
Okay.
And the first thing that comes into your mind, it can be a word, it can be a phrase or a sentence.
Okay.
So
the pressure's getting me.
Your Thambi.
Amazing dancer.
Yeah.
Amazing dancer.
Nice. Mum and dad.
Blessed to have parents like them.
Yeah. Okay. Tamil food.
Delicious. Delicious. It's good.
Tamil language.
I respect it.
And you speak Tamil very well, just off topic.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think I was very pleasantly surprised when you started speaking Tamil, because I was like, you speak Tamil so beautifully. And you never went Tamil school either, did you?
No, I didn't go Tamil school. With Tamil, I've only spoken it. The thing is, at home, I try to speak Tamil as much as I can, because if not with my parents, then who else am I supposed to speak it with?
Yeah.
So what I've learnt is from them. So again, I'm blessed to have parents like them, to have the space to do all of this and to grow up with them. But yeah. I just realized I haven't spoken Tamil in this interview, have I?
No, you haven't.
That's a surprise. You get to know me and then you can hear it.
So final one,
Yes.
Studio.
Safe space. Safe space. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Hashna.
No, thank you
I feel
for
like
having
I
me.
am going to be bringing you back in onto this
Anytime.
couch,
I'm all
because
yours.
There's so much that we haven't even touched the surface of what you're able to express and share with so many of us. And you are an inspiration. I don't know if you're aware of it. My sister and I always talk about you. We're huge fans. And
That's so sweet.
My sister was really excited when I said that, Hashna's coming today. She was like, yes, finally.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Thank you.
No, thank you for having me, honestly. Thank you so much.
No, and I can't wait to see more of your work and just to see how much you contribute to the dance community. not just within our Tamil community, but the dance community and the dance space overall. Because I
Yes.
think that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So best wishes.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, anytime. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Identity with Praveena. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more and stay updated with more of our guests and more of the insights that we're going to be sharing with you. So until the next time, bye. Outro? Okay.
Oh, God.
Breathe.
Well done.
Hey.
That was good.
That was a good conversation. So
Nice.
good.
Woohoo.
Yeah, outro. Are you ready? The camera ready, yeah? I know, I felt it. They're like, it's fine. It's fine if, as long as she looks okay. Everyone knows how I look now. Okay, sorry, are you... Okay, sorry. Okay. Bye.